If you feel exhausted, unappreciated, and quietly disappointed with your life, not because you lack kindness, but because you have given too much of it, then listen carefully. There is a dangerous illusion many people never question. The more available you are, the more valuable you believe you become. The more you help, the more you think you are loved. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the more you give, the less people see you. They don't stop because they don't care. They stop because they get used to you. Used to your presence, used to your sacrifice, used to the idea that no matter what happens, you will always be there. And when that happens, something quietly disappears. Respect. This is the part no one warns you about. Not when you are young, not when you are trying to be a good person. Because it doesn't happen suddenly. It happens slowly, invisibly, until one day you realize you are no longer appreciated. You are expected. And that is where the real loss begins. This story might change everything you believe about kindness, about helping others, and about your own self-worth. A life lesson you'll never forget, hidden inside a simple moment most people would ignore. And as you listen, you won't just hear a story. You will also begin to notice new English words, expressions, and sentence patterns naturally, effortlessly, through the rhythm of the narrative itself. But before we begin, remember this warning. If you are always the one who clears the path for others, one day you may find yourself standing alone, wondering why no one ever learned to walk beside you. Now, let me tell you a story. Every day Adrian woke up before the sun had fully risen above the hills. The village was still quiet, wrapped in a soft morning mist, and the only sounds were distant birds and the creaking of wooden doors slowly opening to a new day. And almost every day before he could even finish his first cup of water, there was a knock on his door. Sometimes it was a neighbor with a broken fence. Sometimes a farmer with a cart that refused to move. Sometimes just someone standing there unsure, hoping Adrian would know what to do. And he always did. Without hesitation, Adrian would step outside, roll up his sleeves, and begin. He didn't ask many questions. He didn't check his own plans. He simply helped. From lifting heavy stones under the burning afternoon sun to fixing leaking roofs as the sky turned orange, Adrian moved from one problem to the next like a man with no limits. At first, people were grateful. "Thank you, Adrian," they would say. "We don't know what we would do without you." And those words stayed with him. They made the long days feel lighter. They made the exhaustion feel meaningful. They made him believe this was his purpose. But something subtle began to shift. The knocks on his door came earlier. The requests became more frequent. And the words "thank you" slowly became fewer. No one asked if he was busy. No one wondered if he was tired. They simply believed one thing: Adrian would come. And without realizing it, Adrian had become not just a helper but a certainty. Adrian was not a wealthy man, nor was he the strongest in the village. He did not speak loudly, and he never tried to draw attention to himself. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. If something needed to be done, Adrian was the one who could be trusted. He lived in a small wooden house at the edge of the village where the road met the open fields. His life was simple. He owned very little, asked for nothing, and expected even less in return. But what he gave without limit. Every day people came to him with their problems: a broken wheel, a damaged roof, a heavy load no one else could carry. And every time Adrian would nod quietly and begin, he worked under the hot sun without complaint. He walked long distances without hesitation. He fixed things that were not his solved problems, that were not his, and carried burdens that did not belong to him. People admired him for it. They called him kind. They called him dependable. They called him the man who is always there. And slowly, Adrian began to believe something deep inside his heart. If I stop helping, I will lose my value. So he never stopped. Even when his body was tired, even when his hands ached, even when the days felt too long, he kept saying yes, because every yes made him feel needed. And being needed felt like being important. But then something strange happened. The gratitude began to fade, not all at once, not loudly, but quietly, almost invisibly. People stopped saying thank you the way they used to. They stopped asking, "Are you free?" They stopped wondering whether Adrian had a life of his own. Instead, they began to speak with certainty. Adrian will fix it. Adrian will come. Adrian will handle it. It was no longer a request. It was an expectation. And Adrian kept saying yes, until one cold morning something changed everything. He woke up feeling weak. His body burned with fever, and even lifting his head felt like a heavy task. For the first time in years, Adrian could not get out of bed. The knock on his door came as usual, but this time there was no answer. Hours passed, then days. At first, people came to check on him. Some brought small offerings. Some stood outside hoping he would recover soon. But as time went on, the visits became fewer, and the problems in the village began to pile up. A broken cart remained broken by the road. A leaking roof continued to drip under the winter rain. Heavy stones lay untouched in the fields. Everything seemed to be waiting for Adrian. But Adrian did not come. And then, something unexpected began to happen. If you see a part of your own life in this story, comment one below so others can share this moment of realization with you. Because what happened next might make you question everything you believe about helping others. At first, nothing happened. The broken cart stayed where it was. The roof continued to leak. The heavy stones remained untouched under the cold sky. The village felt slower, almost uncertain, as if it had lost something it once depended on. From his bed, Adrian watched through a small window. He expected frustration. He expected people to come knocking again. He expected the village to stop. But it didn't. Days passed, and then something began to shift. The baker, who had always waited for help, stepped outside one morning and examined his broken cart. He struggled at first, his hands unsure, his movements clumsy, but slowly he figured it out. A farmer, tired of waiting, climbed onto his own roof. The first attempt failed, then the second. But by the third, the leak began to close. Two brothers who once argued about who should carry the heavy stones finally lifted them together in silence. One by one, people started doing what they once believed they couldn't do. The village moved again. Not perfectly, not easily, but it moved. Adrian lay still, watching it all unfold. At first, he felt a quiet sadness. For years, he believed he was the reason things worked, that without him, everything would fall apart, that his presence was what held everything together. But now, he was seeing something different. They had never truly needed him to survive. They had needed him because he never gave them a reason not to. Weeks later, Adrian finally recovered. The morning he stepped outside again, the air felt different. The village looked the same, but something deeper had changed. People still greeted him. They still smiled. But now, there was a pause in their voices. "Adrian, do you have time, Adrian? Could you help me with this for the first time in years?" they asked. They no longer assumed. And for the first time in his life, Adrian did something he had never done before. Sometimes he said yes, but sometimes he didn't. There was no anger, no disappointment, just understanding. Because something had shifted not only in the village, but inside him. Adrian finally understood that helping others should not come at the cost of losing yourself. And more importantly, he realized that when you are always there to carry the weight for others, they never learn how strong they truly are. This story teaches us a powerful truth. Adrian was never just a man in a village, and the people around him were never just neighbors. Adrian represents something much closer to us. He represents the part of you that always says yes, the part that believes your worth comes from being needed, the part that keeps giving, even when it is exhausted. And the village is your world, your family, your friends, your coworkers, all the people who slowly, quietly, get used to your presence. And the problems Adrian kept solving, they are the stones in life, the responsibilities, the struggles, the challenges that were never yours to carry, but you carried them anyway. This story teaches us that when you keep removing every stone from other people's path, you don't just make their lives easier, you make them weaker. And at the same time, you slowly erase your own value, because what is always there is no longer seen as special. Life is exactly like this. Many people today are living like Adrian once did, always available, always helping, always sacrificing. They answer every call. They solve every problem. They carry every burden. And in return, they expect appreciation. But what they often receive instead is expectation. And that is where the pain begins. Because deep down, they are not just tired. They feel unseen. Remember this. Your presence is a gift, but a gift only has meaning when it is not unlimited. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back, not to punish others, not to prove a point, but to allow others to grow, to allow yourself to breathe, to allow relationships to become honest again. Because the moment you stop clearing the path is the moment others finally learn how to walk. Now take a quiet moment and ask yourself something honestly. Where in your life are you still being Adrian? Where are you saying yes when your heart is asking for rest? Where are you carrying stones that were never yours? And what might happen if just once you left them there? This story resonated with you, type boundaries in the comments. Let that be your first step toward protecting your time, your energy, and your self-worth. Share this with someone who is always giving too much, someone who needs to hear that it's okay to step back. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that help you see life more clearly and live it more wisely.